Arizona goes down and are no longer undefeated. What are the takeaways to really keep in mind after losing in Fog Allen Fieldhouse? First one, it's not the end of the world. Second one, this was a bad game by Arizona. We'll break it all down next on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wildcats Nation, right here? It's the first postcast in my tenure as this host where there's a loss, so it feels a little weird. It's a little somber. But let me tell you this. I do think that Arizona played its worst game of the season. And they were leading for about 30 minutes of this game and played a very poor second half in which their two star players, and I'm not counting Burries in that, but I'm saying Pete and Bradley, I think, played atrociously. I thought Jaden Bradley was awful today. I thought Jaden Bradley had absolutely no impact on the game. I thought Koa Pete looked hampered out there from the get-go. I think he's been nursing an injury for a while. That's my hunch. He just doesn't look explosive. And Arizona, as a result, looked thin in terms of depth because when your point guard can't get the puppies organized and get people the right shots at the right times, and your team is built on getting good shots and getting high percentage looks and dominating the interior, and there's only two players playing well and hard in Burries and Krivos, it's very difficult to beat a team and a raucous crowd at Fog Allen Fieldhouse and find a way to beat Kansas in that setting. I think Arizona got two players that played well, and then one of them wore down. I think Mo Krivos was great. I would argue he was the best player on the floor for the first half. Second half, he just didn't have enough left in the tank. I thought Jaden Bradley had the worst game of the season. I thought Koa Pete was very poor, and I thought Tobe Awaka was a non-factor. And if three of your star players that you rely on routinely have off games at Fog Allen Fieldhouse, you're not going to win. I thought Arizona did a nice job in the first half getting good looks. I didn't think they finished them that well, but the difference is right here. Arizona shot over 50% in the first half, and in the second half, they shot, let's see, what do we got here? In the game, they shot 44%. In the first half, they shot over 50%, and in the second half, they shot, so it's 32 of 72. For some reason, the stats aren't doing that. 32 of 72 versus 19 of 37 to begin with. So they made 13 out of 35 the next half. So that's really poor. And what's the difference? Because they didn't dominate in the paint. In the first half, Arizona was leading the points in the paint by a large margin. They played very well in the first half in terms of getting the ball into the right spots and getting better shots. I felt like after the first half, Arizona, because they were getting more good looks at near the rim, that they would win. I thought that Kansas did a very good job neutralizing where Arizona would get the attacks. Arizona was not necessarily good even in the first half, in my opinion, at finishing near the rim. I thought Krivos missed some easy ones. Koa missed some easy ones. Everyone missed easy shots near the rim that they usually would make. And I think Flory Badunga deserves heaps and heaps of credit. But I think what made the biggest difference for Flory Badunga in the second half is the exhaustion of Krivos, which is something I typically wouldn't say because usually there's an impact from Pete and Awaka, and neither of whom were even felt at all on the game. I really felt like Arizona had empty calories from Bradley, Pete, and Awaka. And you can survive a bad game from one of those guys, maybe two, but not three. Burries was sensational. And I would argue the shots were rushed. They weren't terribly poised. Bradley's leaning and splaying, trying to shoot different shots. And I'm seeing stuff in the chat, and I don't know exactly what I said that's so irritating here. I do think Kansas deserves praise for this one. I don't think many of you guys would say that Kansas would have won without Darren Peterson, and I want to talk about that. I do think that Darren Peterson not playing, of course it doesn't help to lose arguably the best player in college basketball. What it does do is change the tenor of the game. I think the pace changed and became a track meet. And Kansas played with pace, and Arizona's set half-court defense became less of a factor. I think that Flory Badunga is a sensational athlete, a better up and down athlete than anyone Arizona possesses. And Kansas deserves praise for their connectiveness without Darren Peterson. They played physically, they fought on the glass. And like, how many teams can we say played Arizona to a stalemate on the glass? I mean, it helps them in the case that Arizona really struggled to score in the second half. But of course, that's Kansas's defense. We talked about that in the preview, that Kansas is an even better effective field goal defense than Arizona by 0.1%. We talked about that there's a 7th ranked Ken Palm defense. So it was no surprise they were good defensively. But it was a surprise that Arizona was so poor at executing and getting the right shots in the second half. I felt like Krivos could get whatever he wanted in the first half. I felt like Burries could get whatever he wanted. But when you get 4 of 19 between Bradley and Pete, it's not necessarily going to be a good night. Arizona might well have enough to win. They didn't tonight. Kansas closing the gap in the second stage of the first half, as well as coming back from 11 down at the beginning of the second half, really shows their mettle. Kudos to them. Bryson Tiller and Flory Badunga combining for 41 was great. Melvin Council was not terribly efficient. He did not play well. He shot 25 times to score 23 points. But what he did do is make the big free throws and go get the ball. Arizona missed a ton of free throws. They went 8 of 14 at the line, and Kansas went 21 of 25. I will never blame the refs. I do think they missed the travel that Flory Badunga jumped in the air and dropped to himself at a crucial turning point moment. Did that change the game? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You won't hear me ever talk about the refs as the reason for a loss. Never, ever. But what I will tell you is that the pace that Kansas played with, instead of playing at the tempo they play at, which is 199th overall and probably even slower than that when Darren Peterson plays, if you take out the games where he did not play, they were playing at light speed today. And that light speed allowed them to shoot 41% from the field and shoot 69 times and shoot 25 free throws and still score 82 points against the best defense in the country in Arizona, because they played that quickly and got there before Arizona was set. Mo Krivos became fatigued. He blocked tons of shots. He did a great job with Flory Badunga, and all of a sudden Badunga's fitness, and he and Tiller they wore out Krivos, Pete, and Awaka. That hasn't happened all season and likely doesn't happen many times the rest of the season, but that's what happened in this one. I think that Kansas played a better game in the second half, and they stuck more truly to their game plan, which was play quickly and play aggressively, make some adjustments without Peterson that they won't anticipate. And I think that Arizona's biggest flaw isn't that they don't shoot threes. It isn't in this game that they had bad games from Pete and Burries. Pete and Bradley. Pete and Bradley went 4 of 19. You know, the biggest strength Arizona has is they can survive a bad game from one of their stars because they have multiple. The issue in this game is that Kansas mitigated Arizona's biggest advantage, which is the reason that Arizona is so good is no matter what, they get good shots. They shot over 50% for 30 minutes in this game. They just had a really poor last 10 minutes. And a really poor last 10 minutes in Kansas is going to lose you a game. Arizona is a team that, if you want to look on the bright side, I made this note with about 8 minutes to go. The bright side is you're shooting over for 50% and have yet to trail 30 minutes in. The downside is Kansas has made the game ugly and frantic, and Arizona has had a few key players struggle. The bright side, you're winning. The downside, it feels like Kansas is controlling the game. And then another note I wrote is Tiller and McDowell fantastic in the first half, keeping Kansas afloat. But the pace is the biggest thing to note that allowed Kansas to stay in it. Arizona was better, got better shots, and won the glass, and never trailed, but it felt like a poor half other than Burries and Krivos. Likely, you expect Bradley to step up, but Tobey and Pete had no impact. Can that continue? I wrote that at halftime. The answer was those three guys were complete non-factors the entirety of the game. If you get three of your best players complete non-factors at Fog Island Fieldhouse, you're going to lose. I think the referee stuff is idiotic. The people in the chat, I don't think Tony Padilla is a good official, but he didn't lose the game. Kansas outplayed Arizona in the second half. Kansas was the better team, and they played in transition basketball better than Arizona did. And Arizona in key stretches played frantically. They played nervously and forced some shots. Pete shot a top of the key three. Bradley shot a flailing mid-range jump shot. And Arizona, until 10 minutes left in the game, had scored on 75% of their possessions that didn't end on a turnover. So when they didn't turn it over or give up offensive rebounds, they were the better team still. So the shining bright light on this, if you want a silver lining, it's really this. Arizona played poorly. Arizona played poorly and had every chance to win at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. And that's not a statement many teams can say. Coming up next, we're going to go into some keys, review some stats, and take away what it really means to lose a game, because though it would be awesome to pursue history and see how long you can stay undefeated, I think pressure mounts and resetting focus, having new goals, and not carrying the weight of the world of a perfect season matters a lot. So we'll touch on that and a lot more coming up next on Locked On Wildcats. But first, I want to tell you guys all about FanDuel, the drama of curling matches that start slow and somehow get intense and fast, speed skating races that are decided by inches, or in my case, two people from my high school competed in the Olympics, and including Breezy Johnson, who won the gold. You can follow all that on FanDuel. Winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. All right, welcome back to Locked On Wildcats. Leif Thulin with you here for Postcast. Arizona has lost. And Arizona has lost, and the largest comment I'm seeing is referee-oriented. The referees didn't cause Arizona to shoot 44% when they typically shoot 58% from two. Arizona won the three-pointers made battle. So Arizona shot 26 of 57 from two, which is really poor. I would argue it has more to do with Flory Badunga and Bryson Tiller than Tony Padilla. That's just me. And I see two of my friends in the chat right now, and they know who I'm talking to. Referee talk is not the way to actually analyze basketball. And I really think that there are bad calls, and I think Arizona was the team that was more punished by the officials. Flory obviously traveled. I thought Krivas got hacked 1,000 times, but that's not what lost the game. What lost the game is two of the best players combining for 4 of 19, whereas their best players had great games in the second half. Council made all his free throws at the end of the game. Council made aggressive plays and did not hesitate. Badunga outplayed Krivas by a ton in the second half after Krivas was the best player on the floor in the first half. But, this is the story that I think makes Arizona very difficult to beat in March Madness, is it's very unlikely that 3 of the best players on the team all have awful nights. Not just bad, but awful nights. I can't remember a game where Tobe Awaka was terrible. Bradley was awful. I really thought that was the worst performance I've seen from Jaden Bradley. And then you look at Pete. I think Pete's got some sort of injury. I've said that before this game. I've said this while watching this game. I just don't think he has his lift right now. And he's such an athletic and imposing player. If he can't play with force, it takes away a lot of what he does best. So 3 of your best players play terribly. And 3 of your best players play terribly. That doesn't happen very frequently. And that's Arizona's greatest strength. You think of some teams that have lost early in tournaments or lost games they shouldn't have. It's because they're All-Americans get in foul trouble. They're All-Americans get hurt. Arizona's got 4 guys that I think are All-American caliber. They obviously won't get 4 guys on it, but I would argue Mo Krivas should be the defensive player of the year in the Big 12 and maybe nationally. I think his impact is All-American level. I think Braden Burries for a while has been the best player on this team recently. Jaden Bradley is the point guard on the best team in America. He should be an All-American. And Koa Pete has scored 30 against the defending national champs, and it can any given night give you 20 and 10. Those guys are all great. 3 of the 4 being god-awful is not going to happen frequently. That's the greatest strength for Arizona. But it did happen in this case, and that's why you lost. But it took 24 games to get a loss, and it also took Fog Allen Fieldhouse and a great effort from Flory Badunga. I also want to point out Bryson Tiller played out of his mind in the first half to keep pace for Arizona. I also think it's important to note, and I don't want this to be used as an excuse because it's a stupid one, but I think it's important to point out Arizona was prepared for a game defending Darren Peterson at one pace. Darren Peterson slows the pace, and he's I wouldn't say he's horribly heliocentric, but he doesn't pass the ball a ton. When he plays off the ball, that's when the ball passes. But when he has the ball, you can kind of load up your defense differently than when Kansas is coming at you like hornets out of a nest. They were flying up and down the floor. And so I really do think that while Arizona played poorly, I think Kansas played very well. And I think that Arizona can take this on the chin and say, we played poorly, but for 30 minutes we led. We played poorly, and three of our best six players, honestly, three of the four best players on the team, or three of the four most consistent players on the team, had about as bad a games as they've had all season. In the case of Bradley, by far the worst game. All of these guys would say they struggled. Kansas played well. Fog Allen Fieldhouse is a fortress. The Bill Self, 39-0 in big Monday games at home, 15-0 against higher ranked teams when both teams are in the top 10. Like, there's a reason that place is hard to play, and there's a real mystique to it. I believe in that stuff far more than I believe in this bogus about officials. And for those listening, I've said this for years. This is not a tough guy act. I hate when people talk about officials blaming a game. Kansas was the better team in the second half. Point blank, period, simple. Arizona still had their chances and still were leading with 8 minutes left in the game. And the tides changed. Arizona went 1 of 9 in a crucial stretch and really struggled. But let me give you some statistics that really changed this game. In the first half, Arizona had more points in the paint. They had more rebounds. They're +9 in that. They had more points off of turnovers. And you may ask, why are we saying that Arizona is only winning by 3? And the answer was the pace that Kansas instilled in this game, and Arizona missed free throws and a few bunnies. Arizona left opportunities hanging in the balance in the first half that kept Kansas alive. And then Kansas came out like a house on fire with about 10 minutes left, played really quickly. Arizona went dry. And usually it's like, okay, it's Jaden Bradley time. It's Jaden Bradley time. And Jaden Bradley was terrible. He was terrible today. Had no impact on the game. None whatsoever. Offensively, defensively, leadership-wise, at least that I could feel. And I don't mean this to be like, oh, I'm anti-Jaden Bradley. Not at all. But it's okay to say he had a bad game. Jaden Bradley was a non-impact guy, and you can't have that from an All-American point guard in a road game. I think that Bradley shot nervous shots. I thought Pete shot nervous shots. Like that top of the key three that Pete shot when down 3 when Arizona was starting to have momentum slip away, bad shot. Bradley's step back 19-footer with his toe on the line, bad shot. Bradley's flailing mid-range jump shot on the right side, bad shot. Burries was the only composed player offensively, and Krivos was the lifeline defensively, but the pace of the game was way too fast for a guy like Mo Krivos to continue to impose his will like he did in the first half. From the last 15 minutes of the game, Krivos was ailing out there, and that's not a slight to him. I thought he was the best player on the floor for the first 25 minutes. Krivos got tired because the game got too fast, because Arizona was missing shots and started falling into what Kansas wanted to instill into this game. So the keys that I want to revisit were paint points. Arizona, I call it paint-oriented points. Arizona almost achieved it. They had 42 points in the paint and 8 free throws. The issue is they didn't get as many fouls, and you guys are going to say, oh, the referees. But honestly, they didn't shoot from 5 feet like they usually do. They shoot 45% of their shots total this season from 5 feet. And instead, they shot not as many from in there. They shot a lot in the first half, but not very many in the second half. And they didn't put as much foul pressure in the second half. They went dry in the second half. And then the other key I would give you is 3-pointers. Well, Darren Peterson didn't play, so that changes things. But Arizona hit 3s. Burries hit 4 threes. Del Orso hit a 3. Aristote hit a 3. And Arizona won that battle. So the difference was that they didn't have their advantage that they typically do on the interior or on the boards. They won the boards by 4. They won the offensive rebounds by 1, and against a team that doesn't offensive rebound. Kansas is the 15th in the Big 12 in offensive rebounds. And Kansas, I thought, did better on the offensive glass than Arizona. Arizona was less impactful with their offensive rebounds. They were -3 in second chance points. And that's what lost them the game, far more than officiating. because Kansas doesn't offensive rebound, 15th versus first in offensive rebounding, and 15th wins and second chance points. That's your issue. Points in the paint, +2 against a team that shoots a lot more threes than Arizona does. In this case, they shot the same amount because Kansas was willing to take their chances and go toe-to-toe and pushing the pace and using their athleticism to score in the paint versus Arizona using their size. And Arizona's size and force was off. Bradley and Pete combined for 4 of 19 shooting. If you ask any two players that two of your top 3 scorers are going to score 4 of 19 or shoot 4 of 19, you're probably going to lose the game at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. The fact Arizona had a chance is a testament to how high a floor this team has. I do think Arizona is the highest floor team in the country. I do think that Arizona probably has the highest ceiling as well. When they're playing right and they're knocking down threes, then they have the highest ceiling. The thing that hurts them is playing against a team that plays lightning fast and their best players playing terribly. So that just doesn't happen very frequently. I don't think, and I also see in here that Kansas played the game of their lives. I don't think you can play the game of your lives without your best player. I think Kansas played better than Arizona. I think the fact Peterson didn't play may have behooved Kansas in the sense that they played more quickly and they wore out Krivas on a day where Tobe Awaka had a negligible impact. It wore out Krivas on a day that Koa Pete also had a negligible impact. I think this pace of game hurt Arizona in this case. It made them less dominant on the interior, and they also missed a bunch of bunnies. And then it was also a part of this is that, hey, it's a hostile environment and the best home crowd in all of college basketball. Everyone says Duke's pretty good. Kentucky's pretty good. For my money, Kansas is easily the best home court atmosphere. And Arizona played really poorly in the second half. And if you play really poorly, especially 3 of your best players playing with negligible impact at Kansas, you're going to lose. Even the recent Kansas teams that were bad somehow protected home court very well. This team is not bad. And Arizona still had every chance to win this game, even late, trailed by 1. And I thought that was poorly executed. The trap was terrible. I thought Kansas played aggressively and Arizona played nervously. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the ramifications of this loss. What's next? And is Arizona all right? The answer is yes. We'll break that all down next on Locked On Wildcats. The new year is here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you may as well love how it looks and how it feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh all in one place. Whether you're updating your living room or organizing your space, or just upgrading your work from home setup, whatever it may be, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and, importantly, your budget. I picked up new bedding, a couple pillows from Wayfair, and it completely changed how my bedroom feels. It's cleaner, it's calmer, and more put together. And I love that I can find pieces that match my style without spending a fortune. So get organized, refreshed, and back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. And I also want to tell you about Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. That's necessary, but it's also about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, well, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move, because instead of hoping for the right person that stumbles across your post, fortunately, Indeed helps you match with the quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. And if I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I'd want someone with real experience who can jump right in and truly help. And that's what I like about Indeed. You get specific and target exactly what you need. And here's a stat for you guys. You guys know I love stats. In the minute I've been talking to you guys, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. All righty. Welcome back to Locked on Wildcats. Leif Thulin with you here. First loss of the season. Never feels good. Is it the end of the world? No. I love that you guys are engaged. I love that you guys care, and you're right to. I'm frustrated as the host of the podcast. It's my first loss I've had as the host of this podcast. And I'm frustrated because I thought Arizona played poorly, and I still thought they should have won. I still thought even down down 73-67, Arizona still had the game within reach with 3 minutes and 50 seconds, despite the 7 prior minutes being the worst stretch of basketball Arizona's played all season. Kansas played very hard, and they played very well. The positives to draw on from this loss, which I think are always something to think about, is that Arizona still out-rebounded a team that's whole objective in this game was to rebound. Arizona still won the rebounds battle. Arizona still shot better from the field than Kansas. Arizona limited the three-pointers. And the reason they lost was because they were out foul pressured. And I know people are going to say, oh, it's referees. That's not what I mean. The more forceful team, the one who put the impetus on the official to call fouls in the second half was Kansas. Undeniably. Cannot be disputed. Flory Badunga played like a man possessed in the second half. He outplayed Mo Krivas, who I thought was the best player on the floor, for 25 minutes. In the last 15, Flory Badunga was the best player on the floor. Kansas played with more force. They played more quickly, and that's why they shot 11 more free throws. Not horrible officiating. I do think there were missed calls, and I do think they were in favor of Kansas, but not by enough to sway this outcome of the game. I also think that for Arizona to win, they were going to have to win the paint points by 10. I talked about that. I thought they'd have to win by 10 or more, and they were by 2. Fast break points in favor of Kansas. Kansas is a team that doesn't force turnovers. Kansas won the turnover battle by 2. They're very narrow margins. You may say, like, okay, like, why'd they win, even though the stats are very close? It's because Arizona usually dominates the glass. It's because Arizona usually dominates points in the paint. It's because Arizona usually dominates in field goal percentage and good looks. And even when they don't make threes, they still score way more points than you do because you have to shoot bad shots and they don't. But Arizona didn't get to the line. Arizona didn't get easy looks near the rim. And Arizona had two of their best scorers and then one of their most impactful players in Tobe Awaka be complete non-factors in this game. Braden Burries, I want to shout out. He was great. 25 points and at times was the best player on the court. Led all scorers in this game. Hit 4 threes. Was composed. And that's the thing that I thought lacked. Composure and leadership from Bradley. I mean, defensively, I thought he did a fine job. Council shot 25 times to score 23 points. Arizona defensively still did well in that regard. They held Kansas to 41% shooting despite playing as quickly as they did and getting some runouts. McDowell, 4 of 8. And he hit 2 threes, but efficiency not through the roof there. Trey White, who's averaging north of double digits, 4 points, including those clinching free throws. So kudos to him. Flory, great in the second half. Tiller, only 4 points in the second half. Arizona did a really good job at defending first chances. The thing is they gave up second chances, and a lot of them. The thing is that they didn't score on their many second chances. To only score 16 points off of second chances when you get 19 rebounds is not particularly good. It's not particularly good. And then when your All-American caliber point guard scores 6 points and has 5 rebounds, 4 assists, unless you're beating the team by 30, which you're not going to do at Fog Island Fieldhouse, you're going to lose. When your All-American caliber power forward goes 2 of 11 with 5 rebounds and countless turnovers, it says 3, but I don't believe it. Pete had a bad game with more turnovers than that stat sheet says. That means you're going to lose. The fact that Arizona has enough guys where you have to count multiple of this, it allows for Arizona to have a higher floor. But the issue is that Arizona had multiple guys really struggle. That's what it takes to lose. And it also took an expert performance from Bill Self. I thought they won the coaching battle. I thought Tommy Lloyd let Arizona play too long through their mistakes. I thought they played too long without calling a timeout when momentum was clearly on Kansas's side. I thought Bill Self executed out of timeout plays better than Tommy Lloyd did. Because the way to get guys going is get Coapete that dunk that they did get that back screen into a flare for Burries to hit that 3. Get Krivas rest. If Awaka and Pete were bad like they were, you need your most impactful player on the night in Mo Krivas to be rested for those minutes. And when you play in a track meet without calling timeout, it hurts the chances that he's impactful down the stretch. And then he was fatigued, couldn't elevate on push shots near the hoop. There was a lot of missed shots that Arizona usually makes, but I think the point I want to make is they were too tired to make those shots because they were running up and down in a track meet and couldn't set their defense. And they couldn't play offensively the way they want to. It's not that the pace bothered them, it's that they were plagued by multiple of their usually very, very steady and impactful players were completely unimpactful. And it made their rotation effectively shrink. And that's such a rare issue for Arizona. That's the reason we're only talking about this for the first time, because Arizona is a team that has incredible depth. And my title of the preview, I was wrong, I'll admit it. My title of the preview was Arizona's depth will prevail over the star power of Darren Peterson. That was the premise of it. Well, Darren Peterson didn't play, and Kansas's togetherness outshined Arizona's depth because Arizona's depth was shortened by itself and three of their really key players, three of their top 6, and I would argue three of their top 5 really struggling. And I see people talking about Yvonne doesn't get plays called for him. He just gets the ball in the flow. You're right. And that's why I haven't mentioned him as a bad, but I also think he missed some shots, and I thought he forced some shots. And I love Karchenkov. I think 6 of 14 is good, but anytime Karchenkov shoots 14 shots, you're probably wondering, like, okay, what's happening here? Because usually his shots come in transition or wide open. I felt like he was forcing it. And it's better that this happened now than in March. A loss is good. It's not fun. I'm frustrated. You're frustrated. But it's better now than later. And there's time to fix these mistakes, right the wrongs. And coming up next, Texas Tech and BYU aren't slouches. I expect a focused Arizona to beat both those teams. And at Houston, I think Arizona's got a better chance at Houston now than had they won this game. I don't know why I believe that, but that's how the psychology of my brain works. I think Arizona has a better chance to win the game against Houston now than if they had won this game. Arizona 23-1. First loss 24 games in. Could anyone have bet that before this season? Absolutely not. So here us whining is just a sign of our privilege. We cover, or I cover, and you guys root for the best team in the country, and losses happen in basketball. According to Casey Jacobson, you need 2 losses heading into the NCAA tournament to be a true contender. Arizona's halfway there, according to Casey Jacobson. In my opinion, they're still a true contender and the best team in the country. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your frustration in this case. I'm frustrated. You're frustrated too, and it's because we love sports. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll have a show further in depth recapping this game coming out for you guys in the morning, and of course, more thoughts on this game throughout the week. So thank you guys for your consistency and love of the Arizona Wildcats. Thank you guys as always, and bear down.